All right, let's dive right in, shall we? Today we're going to take a look at this Reddit post from our Thailand tourism.
Ooh, Thailand tourism.
Yeah.
I love Thailand.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Have you been?
I haven't been,
Okay.
but the food is amazing and the people are so friendly.
Yeah. From what I hear, it's
Yeah.
a really beautiful country, very welcoming.
Absolutely.
But this Reddit post is titled, "My Thai Girlfriend Turned Out to Be a Freelancer."
Ooh.
So,
Okay, so already we're in some tricky territory here.
yeah, and we're going to talk about this in a very
Sensitive.
respectful, sensitive,
Yeah.
mature way. But obviously the title itself is a little bit, I don't know.
It's a little bit clickbaity, a little bit like, ooh, what's going on here?
Yeah, a little bit designed to kind of get people to click on it and read it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the basic premise is that this guy, he meets a woman online on a dating app,
Okay.
starts to think that they're developing a real connection.
Uh-huh.
He flies out to Thailand to meet her and then starts to notice some red flags.
Okay, interesting.
So let's get into it. The OP, the original poster, describes meeting this woman on a dating app. And, you know, it seems like everything's going well. They're talking, they're sharing their lives, typical online dating kind of stuff.
Yeah, building up that rapport, getting to know each other.
Exactly. And then he decides, you know what? I'm going to go to Thailand.
Taking the plunge.
I'm going to go meet this woman. He spent some time with her, and at first, he says it was magical. He really felt like there was
Yeah.
something special between them.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes the rest of the story even more, I guess, sad in a way.
Yeah, the higher you go, the further you fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So he starts noticing these little inconsistencies,
Mm.
like she's really protective of her phone.
Okay.
She's kind of distant at times.
Mm-hmm.
He sees some messages pop up that seem a little bit, suspicious from other men.
Oh.
And then he gets really curious and starts to do a little bit of online investigating.
Snooping.
Yeah, a little bit of snooping, right? And he finds her profile on another dating app
Oh, no.
called Thai Friendly, which
Uh-huh.
is kind of known for facilitating those, let's say, transactional relationships.
Uh-huh.
So, alarm bells are really going off at this point. And to confirm his suspicions, what does he do?
I think I can guess he makes a fake profile.
He makes a fake profile,
Classic.
messages her,
Oh, no.
and guess what? She responds.
Oh, my gosh, with her phone number and everything.
Yeah, providing her phone number,
Yeah.
suggesting that they meet up. And that's when he kind of has this realization of, okay, I think I've been played here.
Yeah, the scales fall from his eyes.
Yeah.
So how does he react?
Well, he takes to Reddit. He posts this whole story.
To vent, to seek advice?
I think a little of both, right?
Yeah, maybe a bit of validation, too.
He's feeling betrayed, devastated, embarrassed. You can really feel the emotional vulnerability in his post.
Of course, who wouldn't feel that way? You go in with these hopes, you think you found something special, and then boom, the rug is pulled out from under you.
Exactly. And that's where the Reddit community comes in, right?
Yeah, what do they have to say about all this?
Oh, it's Reddit.
It's going to be a mixed bag, I bet.
It's a mixed bag of reactions. Some people are genuinely sympathetic, offering support.
Right, because it's a really tough situation to be in.
Totally. And then you've got others who respond with, well, cynicism and dark humor.
I love some dark humor.
Yeah, dropping comments like, "Welcome to Thailand, bro."
Oof, ouch.
Or, "The girls are cheap, but the therapy after isn't."
Okay, that's a little bit too real.
Right. So it's this really interesting mix of perspectives and opinions.
I wonder why that welcome to Thailand comment is so prevalent. What does that say about the perception of Thailand and the dating scene there?
That's a really good question, and I think it's something we're going to unpack a bit more as we go along. Because, amidst the jokes and the cynicism, there are also some commenters who try to delve a little bit deeper, right? They're trying to analyze the situation, offer some possible explanations.
Trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, and one comment that stood out to me was this idea of a holiday prostitution or sugar daddy arrangement.
Okay, so now we're getting into some really interesting territory here. The financial dynamics of relationships.
Exactly. This commenter was basically suggesting that the OP might have unknowingly entered into a situation where there were different expectations around financial support.
Right, because cultural differences play a huge role in how relationships function, especially when it comes to money.
Absolutely. And, it's a sensitive topic, but we have to acknowledge those differences, right? In some cultures, it's perfectly normal for the man to be the primary financial provider in a relationship.
Yeah, and when you combine that with the economic disparities between, let's say, Thailand and Western countries, things can get very complicated.
Very complicated. And I think it's important to keep that in mind as we continue to explore this story and the reactions it evoked. Because are we, as readers, maybe even as a society, too quick to judge
Ooh, that's a great question.
without fully understanding the complexities
Yeah.
of the situation, especially when you consider, you know, the economic realities,
The context, the
the
nuances.
nuances.
Because there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface, right? It
Absolutely.
really makes you think, doesn't it? Like
Right.
how much is cultural and how much is just, human nature.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really talk about this without addressing the elephant in the room,
Which is?
sex work.
Yeah.
I mean, estimates suggest that a significant percentage of the Thai female population is involved in the sex industry.
Which is a complex issue in and of itself, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge topic. We could do a whole deep dive on that.
Several deep dives, probably.
Yeah.
But it's important to acknowledge that reality because it plays a role in this whole situation.
Yeah. And I think that's what some of those commenters, even the ones who are making jokes, are kind of hinting at.
Right. It's like that dark humor is a way of coping with a reality that's maybe uncomfortable to confront head-on.
Exactly.
And I think it's also important to remember that, you know, generalizing about an entire group of people is never fair or accurate.
Right. Not all Thai women are sex workers.
Exactly.
And not all sex workers are, engaging in it for the same reasons.
Absolutely. There are so many different circumstances and individual stories behind those statistics.
So it's about, recognizing the complexity, avoiding those sweeping judgments.
Yeah. Nuance is key.
Nuance is key.
Always.
But going back to the OP story and, feeling deceived, it's like this really throws a spotlight on the challenges of online dating, doesn't it?
Especially across cultural boundaries.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
you've got the language barrier sometimes.
Out of different cultural norms and expectations,
Yeah.
and then you throw in the inherent anonymity of the internet.
Yeah.
It can be a recipe for miscommunication and misunderstanding.
Huge recipe for that.
And unfortunately, sometimes exploitation.
Yeah.
It's easy to create a persona online that's not entirely accurate.
Oh, totally. Like you said, the anonymity of the internet, you can be whoever you want.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be cautious, right? To be aware of the potential risks.
But manage your expectations.
Yes, especially when you're forming relationships online with people you haven't met in person.
And I think that's a good segue into what some of the commenters were saying about the OP's, let's say, lack of due diligence.
Oh, yeah. There were a few comments along the lines of, did you not do any research before going to Thailand?
Right. Like, come on, man. You should have known better.
Which is a little harsh, maybe.
Yeah, it is a little harsh.
But there's a grain of truth to it, I think. It's like you're traveling to a different country, you're engaging in online dating. It's wise to do some homework.
Yeah, at least a little bit, right?
At least a little bit. Understand the cultural context. Be aware of the potential pitfalls.
Be aware of the scam.
The scams, exactly. Protect yourself.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own well-being.
Absolutely. And that includes your emotional well-being too, right?
Absolutely.
Because this whole experience clearly took a toll on the OP emotionally.
It did. I mean, he talks about feeling betrayed, devastated, embarrassed.
Which are all understandable reactions.
Completely understandable.
And I think this brings us to another interesting point that emerged in the comments. This idea that maybe, just maybe, the woman wasn't a complete villain.
Okay, tell me more about this. I'm intrigued.
So some commenters were suggesting that maybe she was genuinely interested in the OP on some level, while also needing to work.
Oh, like she wasn't just trying to deceive him and take his money.
Exactly. It's like, what if her actions were driven by a combination of genuine interest and a need to survive, a desire for a better life?
Wow. That's a completely different way of looking at it.
It is, isn't it? It challenges us to consider the possibility that her motivations were more complex than we might initially assume.
And that her choices might have been influenced by factors beyond your control.
Exactly. Factors like economic hardship, societal pressures, limited opportunities.
Yeah, and I think one commenter who identified as a Thai woman made a really important point.
What did she say?
She basically said, if you truly want a Thai partner or spouse, give up on freelancers, dating apps, and bars. Those women only sleep with people for money.
Wow, that's pretty direct.
It is. And, it's just one person's perspective, but I think it highlights the importance of remembering that individuals should not be stereotyped based on their nationality or profession.
Absolutely. There are always exceptions to every rule, and it's crucial to avoid making sweeping generalizations.
And it also brings up another interesting point, doesn't it?
Which is,
This idea that maybe the line between transactional and romantic relationships is blurrier than we'd like to admit, even in Western cultures.
ooh, that's a good point. I mean, think about it. Don't we often spend money on dates, on gifts, hoping to impress someone, maybe even with the hope of getting intimate?
It's true. And then there's the whole concept of, treating someone on a date. Who
Mhm.
pays? How much do they pay? There are all these unspoken expectations.
Right, so maybe the financial aspect of relationships is more intertwined with romantic intentions than we'd like to believe.
Maybe it's not as black and white as we sometimes make it out to be.
Exactly, and that's what I find so fascinating about these deep dives. They allow us to peel back the layers of a seemingly simple story and uncover all these complex social, cultural, and economic factors that shape human behavior.
It's like we're constantly learning and evolving our understanding of the world and ourselves.
And it's not just limited to Thailand, right? Like, I feel like these kinds of situations can happen anywhere where there are these power imbalances or differences in economic realities.
Oh, totally. I mean, think about any tourist destination, right?
Exactly. Places where, there's a lot of money flowing in from tourists and maybe the local economy isn't as strong.
Yeah.
Those are the places where these lines can get blurred.
Hmm.
What's a genuine connection versus what's maybe more transactional?
Right. And it's not always easy to tell,
Right.
especially in the beginning when you're kind of swept up in the excitement of a new place, a new person.
Oh, totally. And those rose-colored glasses can be tough to take off sometimes.
Yeah. You don't want to see the bad, you just want to believe the best.
Right. And, sometimes it's easier to ignore those red flags, those little nagging doubts.
Oh, yeah, those red flags, those are always fun.
Yeah, fun in retrospect, maybe not so much in the moment.
Definitely.
But, all of this kind of goes back to something we touched on earlier, right? This idea of cultural relativism.
Yeah.
Like, how much can we or should we judge another culture's norms and values through our own lens?
Oh, right, because what might be considered, deceptive or unethical in one culture might be totally acceptable in another.
Exactly. And that's not to say that anything goes, right?
Right, of course not.
There are still universal values and principles that we should uphold.
Like respect, honesty, basic human decency.
Absolutely. But I think it's important to approach these situations with a certain level of cultural sensitivity and humility.
Yeah, to recognize that our way of seeing things isn't the only way.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of travel and exposure to different cultures, right?
It broadens our horizons, challenges our assumptions.
Makes us question our own beliefs.
It can be uncomfortable sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But I think that's where the real growth happens.
I totally agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into this Reddit post and all of its layers,
Yeah.
what do you think is the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think it all boils down to awareness, right?
Awareness.
Yeah. Awareness of yourself, your own values, your own biases,
Okay.
awareness of the cultural context you're entering into,
Mm-hmm.
and awareness of the potential risks involved in any kind of relationship, whether it's online or offline.
That's so true. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own well-being, right?
Absolutely.
Both emotionally and physically.
Exactly. So go into these situations with your eyes wide open, with a healthy dose of skepticism, but also an open heart.
Ooh, I like that. A healthy balance of skepticism and an open heart.
That's the key, I think.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. It's been quite a journey exploring all these different facets of this story and the bigger issues it touches on.
It really has. From online dating and cultural differences to economic disparities and the complexities of human connection.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
So to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
We hope you found it as thought-provoking and insightful as we did.
And we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those conversations going.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy diving, everyone.